everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, congratulations on your admission to NYU. My name is Camille Wilson, and I work on the marketing and communications team in the Division of Enrollment Management. And I'm so excited to welcome you to our event today, which is part of our Your Future in Focus series. So today's session is all about business. So you will be up close and personal for a little fireside chat between a current NYU student and an alum who is currently working in the field. And really our hope today is not only that you will learn a little bit more about NYU, but you'll get to hear firsthand from our student, from our alum, about the amazing resources that NYU has and the support of our incredible staff and faculty, and how that all works together to help them leverage their skills and talents to secure a future. But before we dive into our conversation, I did want to just share a couple of housekeeping reminders with you. Please note that you all will be muted throughout the duration of our event, but we absolutely want to hear from you and invite you to join our conversation. So if you have questions for our student, for our alumni, please just use the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen. We have some staff and alumni behind the scenes that will answer, and we may be even posing some of those questions live at the end. A second reminder is that we won't cover any admissions or financial aid information today, but of course, if you have questions about that, we are happy to help. We have a ton of resources on our website. You can call us, you can email us. We are always happy to address any concerns that you might have. So enough of me. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Admissions Ambassador Brooke Fuller and our special alumni guest, Celine Shin. So ladies, go ahead and take it away.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I guess just before we get started, I'll quickly introduce myself. So my name is Brooke. I'm a senior at the Stern School of Business studying finance and business econ with a minor in mathematics. I'm originally from sunny Orange County, California, but I always say that I like to say my unparalleled sense of adventure brought me here to NYU. I'm really excited that, as a senior, I did a junior internship in banking at Citi and M&A, and I'll actually be working full time there starting this summer. So, professionally and business-wise, I've definitely had a great experience here.
Hi, I'm Celine. I'll be chatting with Brooke today. I graduated back in 2016 with a degree in neuroscience and started a career at American Express. After graduating, I've been there now for 5 years, and in the meantime, I did go back to Stern and get my MBA as well. So I'm actually a double NYU grad. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I'm excited to talk to Brooke more about our journeys.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. So I'm really curious to know how you made the pivot from, more of like a sciencey, undergrad to be working at American Express and then to get your MBA too.
Definitely. So I've always been very passionate about impact. And when I thought about where I could contribute the most, especially in high school, I always thought it was medicine or science or research. So that was my intention coming into school. So when I was a freshman, I did a few rotations at hospitals and also continued researching in science labs and realized that it might not be the speed of impact that I was looking for. So during my sophomore year, I started venturing out into where else I might be able to make impact. So I did a few internships in law and business, and I quickly realized business is where you can make the most impact quickly, and you can make decisions and see what those results are. So I was very excited by it, and that's where I chose to pivot my career. I chose to pivot quite early on since that was sophomore year.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I'm, definitely different, background for that. Like I've always kind of known I wanted to do business. I was a huge math person in high school, loved econ as well. And it kind of just the perfect amalgamation of the two to me was finance. And so, I've been at Stern for the past 4 years. I've taken numerous finance courses, numerous other types of business courses. But I think that nitty gritty of like being in the room where it happens. And like you said, like being able to actually, make an impact and have what you're doing like actually matter is something that's really drawn me to the field. And it's something that I felt within my internships, and I know for a fact I'm going to feel full time. So I'm definitely excited about that.
That's great. What are some of your favorite internships you tried maybe before banking?
Yeah, so I actually only did one, and I did it in private wealth management at Goldman Sachs in Los Angeles. I think that the idea of, I always knew, like I said, I wanted to be like in an investment bank, but like where in the bank, I didn't know. And so to me, private wealth management was like the perfect combination of, being client facing and being able to like work directly with people, and also like an analytical side where, you know, you're doing asset allocation and you're managing portfolios. And especially in Los Angeles, where like the client base is very diverse and very unique in a lot of different ways. I think that that was really fun for me. I think that in terms of, you know, doing the internships, like kind of like you said, like they're really, really good to use as a judgment of what you really are interested in more. And I think that it was a little bit, it's something that I can imagine myself doing like in the future. But I think right now, as I have a lot of energy and I'm kind of like first diving into the field, I think that like banking just seemed like the perfect place. But I'd like to hear about, you know, what internships did you do in college or even outside or even, you know, within your MBA program to get to where you are?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned, I consider all different types of ways I can make impact. I was interested in law for a while. I was like, I could be a lawyer and do pro bono projects. And I also was interested in science research. So I was conducting research at a lab in neuroscience at NYU. So I tried all different things, but the first internship that really hit it for me was an internship at a hedge fund I took on my sophomore year. And I got it through NYU, through the Wasserman Center. I had just applied. And that really was a great fit for me. It was a very small hedge fund, so I got more one-on-one attention, especially since I wasn't a full-time business student. It really gave me a lot of exposure to the different parts of working in finance and the different functions you might be able to do, like operations versus investment management and all that. So that really changed my mind, and that was one of my favorite internships. Did you also go through Wasserman to get your internships, or?
Yeah, so I used Wasserman for my junior internship. My sophomore internship was actually like kind of a luck of the draw thing. I just went on the website, applied, and somehow they liked my hire view and that worked out. But in terms of my junior internship, which is like a really big thing at Stern to recruit for, you actually recruit for that your sophomore spring. I definitely used Wasserman. I would check the emails every single week to see like what firms were coming in to do firm-wide events. Like, you know, they had a lot of resume workshops. They had, you know, different like people you could talk to like look it up, like do mock interviews or whatever it was. But really I used them mostly for like those firm wides and getting to get those connections with people at banks to like then reach out and start networking. I think that, you know, having that so close and having like that, I guess, ease of access to all of that was super helpful. And then not to mention, right, we're in New York City, like when the banks come to talk to you, they're not coming from far, they're just taking the subway up a little bit to like come see us, which is super nice. Cause even if they were in a rush, they'd be like, listen, I got to go back, but here's my email. We'll talk some other time, reach out to me and you can come down and actually like meet me in person for like a coffee chat. So it was super helpful to use them with all of, you know, all of their resources that they had. And so it's cool to see that like, that's still something that they did, you know, back, you know, not back then, you're not that old, but like, you're not that old, but like, it's, you know, it's been something that they continue to do, which is really cool.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's been fun to be on both sides of it since I'm on the recruiting team now for Amex and I love meeting NYU students. And now you'll be on that other side too. What do you think are some of the best resources you have besides Wasserman and networking with alumni? Were you involved in any clubs or extracurriculars?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, when I joined my first year, I actually joined a club at Stern called the Investment Analysis Group. And it was basically my first intro to anything finance. It was, you know, learning to model, learning about like how to value a company, all of those different things. And they had a really cool, like, I guess, connection with like seniors, like the seniors already that had done internships and whatnot. Like we were able to use them as resources and have them, you know, if they have an internship, they pass it down to the freshmen or the sophomores or whatever it was. And the same with I'm actually in a business fraternity called Alpha Kappa Psi. We're actually Alpha chapter here at NYU, which is really exciting. And that especially, we have so many alumni that, you know, we could reach out to for help with recruiting. Our seniors and juniors like really, really helped us with like learning technicals, mock interviewing, everything. I think Stern itself has a really, really solid like support base for when you start going through that. And like, even now I'm actually a peer mentor as a senior. And so I actually mock interview and help sophomores recruiting right now. Currently, I just got off a call like about an hour ago with somebody. So, you know, there's definitely like, I think Stern in particular does a really good job at, you know, preparing you for like that finance internship, the recruiting part. What about you? What clubs were you involved in when you were here?
Yeah, definitely. So it's funny, I can relate to your Stern experiences since the MBA program mirrors a lot of the extracurriculars. So I know we were both in Stern Women in Business, but for example, when I went through recruiting during my MBA program, a lot of the consulting networking groups that we have at Stern dedicated to the students, we would do all the mock case studies and interviews ourselves too, and have like a whole spreadsheet of who's available when, so we can meet up and pair up and practice interviewing. So I can relate to that completely. back when I was an undergrad, which I know is not too long ago, but I was very focused on leadership positions around my major. So I was the president of the NYU Psychology Association and also held leadership roles in the Neuroscience Society. But I was mostly driven to those opportunities because of the community impact. A lot of the fraternities, sororities, and extracurriculars at NYU try to focus on making an impact within New York City. So I loved those volunteer opportunities. I found those to be most present in extracurriculars. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I mean, same. Like, I think that in terms of like all of NYU, I'm a part of a Zeta Tau Alpha as well, a social sorority, and I always liked what we did for like Think Pink and whatnot. And then just like like being an admissions ambassador too has been such a fulfilling experience, and I've, loved my 4 years doing it. But I guess, yeah, like during your time here at NYU, were you able to find like that mentorship and support system, like through professors or through Wasserman or through like kind of clubs or anything like that?
I wish I leaned on my professors a bit more at the time. I didn't as much as I did when I went back and got my MBA, but I think I found the most value in reaching out to alumni at companies that I was interested in working at or had similar backgrounds to me where they might have studied STEM but then pivoted into business. I would just reach out to them and they would be more than happy to chat. And it's a cycle. You give back once you're in the position of working full time and a student reaches out to you. It's hard to say no. I never do. So I think it's just like a cycle that keeps going. And even now, when I'm at Amex, there's a huge NYU network. We have a whole alumni group, and there are executives who went to NYU as well. So reaching out to them, I have no problem making a connection that way. So it really is very full circle. And I think that having that bond is very special.
Yeah, and I think that's actually truly something that I've seen too. I mean, from, like I said, when I was recruiting, reaching out to not only NYU alumni, but also like AKSI alumni or Stern alumni, right? Like if you put that in your subject line, it was amazing how much of a higher response rate you got just because of like, you're reaching out and they're like, oh, I remember I was there. And I think that even starting next year, right? I mean, it'll be happening to me too. I don't even know what I'm like. It's crazy to think about that, how time flies, but it really is like, I'm like you, like I want to respond to every email. I want to give back as much as I can because of the support that I got from our alumni as well, which is really exciting. And so I guess with your first, job working at American Express, like how was that, right out of college? Like what is the transition like from being a student to being a working professional?
I think it's interesting how in college and like throughout your entire educational career, I guess, you are solely focused on grades and grades are determined by merit. But once you enter the workforce, it's not just merit and how good you're doing your work, but it's also people leadership skills and management skills and learning to flex those and working throughout a large organization and understanding how an organizational structure works. So I think culture is very important. And a lot of the times you choose to work at a company because of cultural fit. So just spending like the first 3 to 6 months of learning what the org structure looks like and getting involved in the extracurriculars you want is very important. When you first enter a company, I feel like it's hard to show that you're a people leader and you want to grow at the company one day. It's actually relatively easy because you can show that you are going to become a people leader one day by joining the recruiting team at Citi and going back to hire more NYU students. You could also join like the Women's Interest Network and co-lead an event there, and just doing things like that show that you want to provide value to the firm and the company, and also that you're willing to take leadership roles. So I think it's almost like college, but in a different setting, since in college you're doing the same things. You're an ambassador, you're joining a lot of different extracurriculars and showing that you have leadership skills. It's just translating that over to a new environment.
Yeah, no, and thank you. I mean, obviously it's exciting to think that it's happening so soon. But I know, like, especially at Citi, like we have a huge NYU recruiting alumni network. Like, I think that they even told us when we had like a special event just for us, like, we love NYU students. We're going to pull for you guys every single year. Like, it's such a cool thing, I guess, like support system in that way to have. And it is daunting, right? Like going from college where you have so much free time and you're taking the, just classes and tests like that work to like actually doing, a full 5-6 day, 7 maybe work week, with all of the, like much more hours and all of that. But, obviously with COVID and stuff, it's going to be very interesting because we already heard that we're going to be starting online. And so, as much as it's it's, weird, makes sense, but like really, uncertain. Like, do you have any advice, I guess, for me starting, to like stand out in that way? Yeah, like all the ways you mentioned, but, in a virtual setting, at least for a few months to get started.
I think setting up virtual coffee chats is great. I also think that if possible, turn on your camera as much as you can, just so people can tie a name to your face. And I know City has like no video Fridays. Definitely take advantage of that. Make sure to take care of yourself. I know it's like a huge change. I remember the first couple of weeks I was working, I was so tired after every day because you don't realize how much mental mindshare goes into working full time. While at school, you might have classes 2 days a week and you might like load it so that you have time to do other things, but you can't do that at work. So I would just say focus on taking care of yourself, getting enough sleep. I know it might be hard at first, but it'll be great, I promise.
Thank you. But I guess also another like fun question is like, how has it been being a working professional in New York City? Like, I think that's one of the biggest pulls to me was part of NYU was that it's in the city. Like I got to experience it before, I'm going into finance here. Like, how is that like actually working in this crazy, Big Apple city that everyone, hears about, thinks about, like the financial capital of North America, essentially?
I think it's so great. There are so many networking opportunities. A lot of the women's employee resource groups across the city are all in discussions with each other, and sometimes we'll host events together. So there are definitely networking opportunities. And because a lot of the offices are clustered in certain areas, like Goldman Sachs is across the street from us, City is actually like down the street from us. You walk like 5 minutes. BNY Mellon's also in our building. So I feel like during lunch breaks and happy hours, you just meet people and you get to network and find friends that you can lean on outside of your company that you might not necessarily, you can be more transparent with them because they're not at your company. So it's great to network in that sense too. And they can relate to everything you're going through. So it's great.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm so excited to like, actually, yeah, that's so funny. I will be working like a 10-minute walk or 5-minute walk from you. That's insane. This is, maybe just a question for me, but like, how is commuting? How is the commuting life here in New York City?
Yeah, so it's funny because the past year I haven't had to commute and I probably won't have to for another 6 months at least. So at first, when I was commuting, it wasn't terrible. I think that the commute in the morning is more chaotic than leaving because you can leave whenever you want, or if you're leaving late at night, but you can take a car home, so it's not bad. But I think that a lot of people are now transitioning to moving to the suburbs or potentially relocating entirely and working remotely. So I can see commuting changing when we do all return back to the office.
It's like going to be such a first time for me because when I lived in LA and I did my internship there, obviously you drive and everyone has a car. And so here I'm like so nervous to take, like you sweating on the subway or whatever it is in your suit. Like I've seen people do, but it's all exciting and I really can't wait for it to happen for the first time. So I guess, I think we're, about to wrap up. So I guess we can both, if you have any advice to like, obviously our attendees who might be wanting to, come to NYU about, business here and whatever it is, we can both kind of, I guess, answer that.
That sounds good. My personal regret, that I haven't taken advantage of when I was at NYU was studying abroad. So I highly encourage you to take the opportunity if you can. You won't have another time in your life where you might have at least 3 to 6 months to be in a different country. So I would definitely take advantage of that. And also just be open to new opportunities. You might go in having one idea of what your major or your career path might be, but career paths are never straight. And everything changes so quickly, like the pandemic completely changed everything the past year. So just be open and flexible.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. I think that so many people come into an undergrad, especially that I've met, like I had this one mindset of like, oh, I'm doing, finance or die, or like I'm absolutely doing this, or I'm absolutely doing that. And it's amazing. Like, I think that part of Stern's, core curriculum is core business curriculum is that you take a bunch of different business classes in a bunch of different industries. And so you can actually kind of see what you like. And I had a friend that I know was diehard tech, everything going to be tech. And then they took a marketing class and was like, wait a minute, this is fantastic. This is like what I like to do. And even, organizational management or any of those classes, like all very different elements of business. And so I think that definitely the open mind thing is very incredible. Like, I think that's a very important thing to do. But I think that in terms of, NYU being like, or NYU and Stern, and even in like my friends in CS or other schools that are, going into business, like I think that we have such a good foundation to set you up for success. And I think that the one thing that I always tell my kids at Stern, when I'm like as a peer mentor talking to sophomores and freshmen, that like, you will find a job there. Like based off of numbers, based off of history, like you will find a job, you will get to do what you want to do. Figuring that out is like on you to like explore and, keep searching. So I encourage like all of you to keep, exploring, keep searching and keep developing that, because you don't have to know what you want to do at 18. But by the time, you get to be a senior like me, like I feel like I've truly got the experience to like try out everything and see what I like the most. And I can be really confident and like assured that what I'm going to do is like what I'm like most excited for. So yeah.
Amazing. That was awesome. I loved being a fly on the wall for this conversation. That was so incredible. And I think one thing I loved is that both of you talked so much about paying it forward and how there were so many people at NYU who helped you, alumni who kind of reached back to pull you up. Because I feel like sometimes in the business world, people have this perception of it being like super cutthroat and so competitive, but the fact that both of you had similar experiences with people really lifting you up and that you're both doing it for others, I think is just a testament to the community that NYU has and like how it's a different environment, even though it's still business. Love, love, love. So we have a couple of questions that came in from our audience as y'all were chatting. So the first one is for Celine from Shajia, hopefully I'm saying that right, who's curious about your time pursuing your MBA. Did you work while you did? Did you not work? Do you have any advice for people who are curious about pursuing an MBA and what it's like to maybe juggle both at the same time?
Definitely. So there are 3 different traditional MBA programs. You can get an executive MBA, which is typically on weekends, a part-time MBA, which is the route I took, where I worked full-time and then went to school part-time during the night, where on weekends you have flexibility. And then of course the traditional full-time program where you go for 2 years and you don't work during that time. I chose to go part-time because I was at a point in my career where if I had quit my job and went back into the same industry, I would actually be behind. So I chose to go part-time for that reason, since I wanted to continue my career trajectory, but it was important to me personally to get an MBA. So it really depends. I think if you are someone who graduates college and you enter a field that you might not have thought it might be, or you want to eventually transition, then a full-time program is better because it's more built for you to try different things, go through internships again, and pivot industries or career. So it's really a personal choice.
I love that. What I'm hearing you say is that there are options and it really just depends on what's going to work best for you. I think that's really the best advice to give. And then another question for both of you. Do you have any advice on how to juggle all of the things, right? Because at NYU, of course, you're here to go to school, but then there are also these internships, these amazing student clubs, extracurriculars. Like, in your experience, how are you able to balance it all? Because both of you seem to be super involved during your time.
I'll let Brooke go since she's currently in it and she's juggled so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, you did too, but I think that, going into it, the first year you get so excited and you want to join everything and you get there and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's only 24 hours in a day. But it's possible to like do the things that you really want to, just really like, I think that early on I learned time management and just, okay, I have to block out this many hours for homework. I have to block out this many hours for this, but then I can also add in the things that I really want to do. And, recruiting for internships. I was of the mind that I didn't want to do an internship during the school year just because I wanted to be involved in so many other things. So that was like a choice that I made, that I'd just do summers, but other people do opposites, right? Some people would rather not be in clubs. They just want to do working, or maybe they don't, they have classes like only on, like kind of like Celine said, Monday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they do, whatever it is they do. So it's definitely possible. I think it really is just figuring out the things that you want to do, making sure that there is enough hours in a day for it to get done, and like, you know, fully going for it. I think that, you know, it's a trial and error thing. It really did take a little bit to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm solid in my like free time versus work time versus studying, like, and it's something that you really learn. I think that, you know, going to NYU in particular, like helped me grow and develop because of that. So it is possible, I promise you, right? A little bit of work to get there, but it happens and it's really awesome.
I completely agree with Brooke. And it's also being self-aware. I know you mentioned recruiting. Like, for example, when I was recruiting during my MBA program, I only took one class that semester since I knew recruiting would suck up most of my time. But then the next semester, I loaded up on classes beyond the limit. So I think it's just being self-aware of knowing what is important to you, like Brooke mentioned, and then also planning out ahead.
Yes, planning ahead is very important.
Yeah, I love that advice because I think, you know, there are a lot of options, but you can try a couple of things your first year, your first semester, switch around. Like there's so many ways to fit it all in. And I think you both have some great insight on doing just that. So 2 more questions. So Maya is asking, what is something that you wish you took more seriously when you were at NYU for you, Celine, and Brooke, you know, looking back on your previous few years? And then on the flip side, what is something that you wish you didn't stress so much about? And I love this question so much. So if you need to take a second to think about it, go for it.
So in my opinion, I wish I leveraged more relationships with my professors. I did more of that during my MBA, but when I was an undergrad, I think I took it for granted. I was more focused on sitting in on the classes and making sure I got good grades. But you should reach out to your professors. They're humans and they have so much insight and knowledge. A lot of them have worked in industries in the past. A lot of them are founders and entrepreneurs, and they have a lot to offer you. So I would not treat them as just someone standing up there lecturing, but as a human being who is more than open to being friends with you and giving you advice and helping you shape your career too.
Yeah, no, I actually totally agree. I think that the one thing looking back, I wish I would have focused more on was like using professors. And I think that in, you know, at Stern, we're really lucky to have some amazing, amazing professors, like, you know, some of them that are talked about throughout the entire finance industry in New York City, right? And so taking their classes was, you know, amazing and very fulfilling and great classes, but I don't think I took the steps necessary to really like, you know, meet them and actually get to know them and like use them as resources in the way that I think a lot of others might have. But in terms of focusing too much, I think, you know, stressing too much about that initial when you start recruiting and getting a job and being afraid, like I'm never, you know, that thought I'm never going to get a job, and like it works out. Like everybody does get a job, right? Like you can go out that Thursday night to dinner with your friend. I promise you that's not the difference between you getting a job and not, right? Like those, just like, you know, taking a deep breath and realizing like what it actually takes versus the stress and like getting clouded. I think that was definitely something I wish I focused a little bit less on when I was like, you know, especially recruiting as a sophomore. But once again, it's like a trial and error thing. Once you realize it's happening, then you can start working on it. But until then, you know, it's just, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. But, you know, it all got done. So all's well that ends well.
I love that. I feel like you guys are speaking to me with the advice that you're giving today. Okay, and then our last question before we wrap everything up. Someone from our audience complimented you and said you both are so well-spoken and insightful, and they just were wondering what initially attracted you to NYU and what really stood out about this particular university when you were weighing all your other options.
I mean, I guess I can start. So I knew I wanted to go to business school 100%. And I knew I wanted to go to a school in or near a city. I'm a very metropolitan person. Like I like hustle and bustle of everyday life. I like seeing a lot of people. Like I know I couldn't do a rural thing, and I, you know, business was my focus. When like, you know, looking at all of the, I guess, options, NYU really stuck out to me because like I said, I knew I liked finance. I knew that's what I was interested in. And if you're going to do it, this is the place. Like, this is really where, you know, that's where I would probably end up working anyway. But like to get a head start and to get, you know, acclimated to living here, to be able to chat people like at other, you know, banks or other places throughout the year, like having the speakers that we did, it was just, I felt I would get the best experience in like doing so and coming here. On top of that, a lot of other universities in terms of business school, right? You don't get accepted into the business school, you have to reapply to it. And that, you know, may not be a very high acceptance rate. So it's like applying to college all over again. And that was the last thing I wanted to do, was worry about, you know, getting into college when I'm already there. And so, you know, being able to be admitted into Stern as a first year student, having a 4-year curriculum that's like very heavily just business focused, what you want to do, not having to take all these classes that have nothing to do with what, you know, your focus is. Like those were all such huge drivers to me. And I think that I truthfully got the best business and finance education I could have, especially, you know, being in New York and just the way that the curriculum set up. So.
For me, I just wanted to be somewhere that was very innovative culturally, and also just meeting like-minded individuals who are just so passionate about what they want to do. Like everyone at NYU, whether it's acting or business or becoming a doctor, they're just so passionate about their goals. And I wanted to surround myself in that environment. And also people at NYU are just so creative, and that's part of what attracted me to it as well. Some of the biggest companies have been founded there, like Twitter. Jack Dorsey was at NYU when he made that. Same with, I know Pinterest was involved with Stern at a point too. Same with Audible, Brooklyn, and so many companies were founded by NYU entrepreneurs and alumni. So that's part of what I was interested in as well.
I love it. NYU just has all the things, and I love your answers. I'm like, why didn't I go to NYU? It's making me want to go back a little bit. But that's all the questions that we have time for today. I did want to just say a special thank you to Brooke and Celine. That was an amazing conversation. And I think your advice and insight was much appreciated by everyone in our audience. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed our session today and had a chance to learn about NYU and some of the things that you can look forward to as a student here. Just a quick plug for our next event in the series. It's actually happening this Saturday, April 17th at noon Eastern Time. We're going to be chatting with an alumni about their journey from NYU to the field of education. So hopefully you can join us for that one as well. Until then, we encourage you to check out all of our offerings on NYU Homebase, where you can find some additional info about our upcoming events. And make sure that you follow us on social media at Meet NYU on all platforms for even more updates. So with that, thank you all again so much for attending. Congratulations and have a great day. Thank you so much.